One problem is that it is much harder to get good grades in these classes than in classes in the humanities or the social sciences. This is because the answers to questions tend to be clearly correct or incorrect. It is difficult for students to earn good grades for creativity or originality. As most American students take a variety of classes in their first year, they quickly realize how much easier it is to do well in other subjects. As a result, they become disillusioned with the chore of trying to get good grades in science classes. However passionate they feel about science and engineering at the beginning, they are inevitably enticed to switch to other majors where it is easier for them to excel. Some experts say that instructors need to develop classes that are more geared towards today's students. They suggest reconstructing science and engineering curriculums by phasing out old-fashioned lecture courses. One way to do this is to teach science through projects which allow the students to feel more engaged with the subject. Where this has been tried out, it has generally proved successful. Unfortunately, many schools have yet to change their way of teaching. The professors tend to cling to old-fashioned teaching methods, believing they are essential to understanding the subjects. Yet, many experts predict that as long as teachers adhere to the traditional ways of doing things, the number of science and engineering majors will continue to decrease.
言葉を使わなくてもコミュニケーションが取れる。そんな
Natural language. One issue which has caused many disputes in linguistics is the extent to which languages reflect an innate ability, as opposed to being learnt by mimicking adult speakers in the child's environment. Recently, Susan Golden Meadow, a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago, published the results of an experimental study which she believes represent a breakthrough in resolving this question. According to Golden Meadow, she has discovered that young children can develop complex sentence structures without learning them from other people. Her research thus supports the theory that there is an underlying genetic ability to carry out structured communication present in all human beings. In order to gain insight into this issue, Golden Meadow enlisted the help of two sets of deaf children, one living in Taiwan and the other in the United States. These children had not been taught a conventional sign language. Rather, they used a system of gestures that they had devised themselves. The really startling aspect of her findings was that the children in Taiwan spontaneously produced a gesture system that was very similar to that of their counterparts in the United States. The fact that two sets of children living in such completely unrelated verbal and cultural contexts produce similar patterns of gestures furnishes persuasive evidence of an innate ability to create structured languages. Golden Meadow has been steadily researching the gestures used by deaf children for over 20 years. During this time, she has accumulated a rich archive of videotapes of them communicating with their mothers. She has drawn on and interpreted this data to work out aspects of how the mind develops independent of environmental influences. She argues that when we examine the gestures, not only do we find that they form a coherent system, but we can also discern stages in their development. First, the children create nouns by pointing to objects. Later, they begin to combine these gestures with ones that stand for verbs to form elementary sentences. Golden Meadow puts forward the theory that these stages illustrate the way in which all human minds tend to develop. Part of the significance of the latest research is that the patterns of gestures have a grammar different from both Chinese and English. When the children use the gestures for boy and hit, for example, the meaning is that the boy was hit by someone, not that the boy hit someone. Human languages are very diverse, and there are some languages with this structure. But this evidence seems to uphold the surmise that this development occurs regardless of language. Whether we can really ascribe to all human beings the stages that Golden Meadow has extracted from her data remains to be seen, but her research is certainly a vivid reminder of how naturally resourceful human beings are.
親が子供を守るのは当然ですが、過保護
America's fragile youth. Most young Americans expect college to be not only an opportunity to develop intellectually, but also a place to have fun during their first years of independence. Recent evidence suggests they may be disappointed. Stress and anxiety among college students have become serious concerns. This problem has been years in the making. For far too long, children have been kept safe from life's bumps and bruises in the belief that it is good parenting. But as child psychologist David Elkind points out, we learn through experience and we learn through bad experiences. Through failure, we learn to cope. Schools share the blame. Many have replaced recess with activities closely supervised by adults. Elkind therefore feels that children no longer learn the skills such as decision-making and interacting with others that they once did through play. Consequently, as young adults, they are less able to deal with life's stresses. The spread of cell phones has added to the problem, with many college students constantly turning to their parents for support. This dependency delays personal development and undermines self-confidence. Children who are left to deal with the stresses of daily life by themselves develop valuable life skills. Children need to be gently encouraged to take risks and learn that nothing terrible happens, says Michael Leibowitz, professor of clinical psychiatry at Columbia University. He believes that parents being constantly available means children will not have the opportunity to overcome their natural shyness. As a result, they will more likely suffer from stress and anxiety later in life.
今アメリカでは大学を4年生から3年
Rethinking the four-year college degree. At most U.S. colleges and universities, it takes 4 years to complete a bachelor's degree. Students are required to follow a rigorous schedule of homework, independent study, and preparation for midterm and final exams. During the 3-month summer breaks, they are free to pursue extracurricular activities or study abroad programs. Indeed, it is often claimed that one of the greatest benefits of the current 4-year system is that it allows young people to develop the depth of knowledge and the character required to assume the responsibilities of work and society. Recently, however, there have been calls to shorten the bachelor's requirement to 3 years. Senator Lamar Alexander proposes this be accomplished by eliminating summer vacations. He notes the U.S. higher education system is the same as it was 200 years ago, when we were a nation of farmers and students put their books away to work the soil during the summer. He adds that colleges would benefit by keeping campuses open year-round, as they could collect additional tuition fees. University of Pennsylvania professor of education Robert Zemsky agrees that a 3-year system would be preferable. His argument is that obtaining a good job in many fields increasingly requires a master's degree, so the faster a student can get into graduate school, the better. In addition, he says, a 3-year program would reduce students' expenses by 25%. Rather than forcing students to study year-round, however, Zemsky proposes simply reducing the number of credits needed to graduate. In order to facilitate this change, he suggests adapting the final year of high school. He wants high schools to have special curriculums that offer students truly challenging courses to prepare them for 3-year degree programs. There has been opposition to these proposals. Critics worry that a 3-year college program would give students less time to decide on a career path and limit their opportunities for personal development. They are also concerned that extra pressure on teaching staff might lead to course options being reduced, making programs less attractive to students. Furthermore, students in 3-year programs would likely have fewer chances to get into classes taught by famous professors. Despite these possible drawbacks, Alexander believes a 3-year program would appeal to the brightest, most motivated students. He notes that, even now, such students often complete their 4-year degrees early by packing more courses into each semester.
これでこの CD は終わりです。
Powers. How was the concert?
I didn't even get to the venue. The police were tipped off that some terrorists were planning to blow up the railway station. They were getting drivers to pull over and questioning them.
I bet it was anarchy.
It was pretty chaotic. The delays to the traffic caused a lot of congestion.
Terrorists? I think the police should be given more powers to pursue them.
I don't agree. Of course, however oppressed you think you are, you should not bomb innocent people. But if the police have too much power, the danger of criminal accusations being brought against innocent people goes up too.
What do you mean?
Think of the precedents. Do you remember the Birmingham Six? They were innocent, but the police were convinced they were guilty of planting bombs. They interrogated them until they confessed.
I see what you mean. They said the police assaulted and bullied them until they had no choice but to confess, even though they were innocent.
And the jury was so biased against the defendants that they would not believe any of the testimony in their favor. We must not let that happen again.
政治家が書いた回想録を読むとき、つい期待してしまうのが暴露話です。
Reading politics. Have you been reading the former Prime Minister's autobiography?
The one being serialized in the Politics Weekly. I read the first couple of installments because I have a subscription to the magazine, but I haven't read the latest one yet.
I tried to buy a copy, but it had sold out. People say that despite his distinguished career, it's pretty disappointing.
That's because they were hoping for lots of exciting disclosures about what really happens in the corridors of power. Actually, it's rather impersonal. Mainly innumerable dreary descriptions of everlasting political conferences, at which his speeches are always greeted with thunderous applause from the auditorium.
That makes him sound rather arrogant. I guess one cannot expect much more from a politician.
I don't know. Some politicians' memoirs are really absorbing, as well as quite witty and charming about political life. Not this one, though.
It's the same in real life. He always comes across as very calm and composed, but somehow a bit wooden and insincere.
Certainly some of the tributes he pays to other leaders seem like mere flattery. On the whole, though, he seems a decent but rather boring man.